Good evening and welcome to the Randell Fisher Show. I am your host, Randell Fisher.
And I am your co-host, Patrice Fisher.
Tonight we have a very special show tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about mental health illness. The African American community and how it affects us. And tonight I have a special guest with me tonight. I have Miss Winnie Moore, who's going to be here talking about the effects of mental health. She is a licensed therapist and she has some other things, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Winnie Moore, and I am a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Maryland, which is an LCPC. In Washington, D.C., I am an LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor. Nationally, I'm an NCC. Those are all the letters behind my name. And NCC is I'm a national certified counselor.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So I want to do one thing, because this is such a serious subject, and we don't want anybody to miss the subject. Yeah. And like we always say at the beginning of our show, we are not life coaches. We are people with life experiences. Yes. And we always like to say as well that we do believe in Jesus Christ. And, you know, of course, we would like for you to call in and want to give your life over to Christ if you never have. But we still want you to call in even if you're not a believer of Jesus Christ. We just want you to call in if you feel like you need to discuss whatever it is that we're talking about tonight. Yes. So tonight what I want to do is just have my wife just do a brief prayer for us, because we seriously want people to connect with us tonight. So...
Yes. Father, in the name of Jesus, God, we thank you for another opportunity to come and be able to send help, to send love, to send hope to someone that is in need. Father, we pray that those that are suffering from anxiety, depression, that they would be encouraged, they would be informed, they would be uplifted. And we pray that you would continue to bless your people. We pray this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So first of all, we want to say Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans. And just so happened that we have a veteran sitting with us, Miss Winnie Moore. Miss Winnie, how long did you serve in the military?
I was in the Air Force Reserves for 11 years.
11 years. And what was your job?
I was with the Office of Special Investigations, law enforcement.
Law enforcement. So how did you feel when you returned to society, as you will?
It was a great move, a great shift, because I have to say that I believe that I was led to be a counselor, because I was always searching, like, what is my ministry? What does God have for me to do? And I believe that He led me to counseling as my ministry. So I am where I'm supposed to be.
So I've heard from a lot of military people, my family that's in the military, and it's always difficult for them to make that transition from military life to civilian life. Do you know, how is that? Does that cause depression for military individuals?
Of course, because it adds stress. Because when you've had the military tell you what to do, tell you when to get up, where to be, how to be, where to move to, and then you stepping away from that, and now you got to figure all that out on your own.
Wow.
So especially if you take a person that's went into the military at the age of 17, stayed 20 years, they 37 years old, coming out of a life that they grew up in. And so it's a difficult transition. The military has transition assistance programs to help them with that transition, but sometimes they need just a little bit more. And that's where I would encourage any military member that's transitioning, get your counselor on the side. They help you with that transition.
Yeah, I thought that was important, because I know by being Veterans Day on tomorrow, we're going to make sure that we talk about that. It's because somebody may be listening as a veteran and maybe having a difficult time. So what I want to start out with is, what are some of the myths about depression in the African American community?
Well, the things that we say in the African American community about mental illnesses, we don't even talk about it. What we'll say is, Uncle Bob got a Mickey slipped in his drink. 20 years ago, and that's what happened. Okay, that's why Uncle Bob act like Uncle Bob acts. And so that's what we use. Or if they are drinking, oh, that's Uncle Bob, he's always drunk. Well, what happened first? So we don't roll back and say, okay, wait a minute, Uncle Bob wasn't always like this. And what is this Mickey being slipped in his drink? What is that about? Well, what it is about is Uncle Bob may have hit that age where the onset of schizophrenia came into play. Okay. But because we had no other way to explain it and know what schizophrenia is, or mental illness is, it was a Mickey slipped in the drink. So, we just have to get ourselves more educated and, tap into the resources that's available.
So what is schizophrenia? So I know a lot of people want to know the differences between depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar. So if you can help us out a little bit. Okay.
Well, all of those diagnoses are encapsulated in the DSM-5 now. The DSM is the Diagnostic Statistics Manual for Mental Disorders. Okay. And that's our, for lack of a better term, that's our Bible. And so all of those diagnoses that you mentioned are categorized in there, and they all have different symptoms. And so when a person goes in to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, they say, I'm feeling this. I'm not sleeping. I was up all night for 3 days. So what we do is we listen to what they're saying, and then we help them to understand what's going on. Schizophrenia is it's a psychosis. When a person is schizophrenic, they're either going to be seeing things that other people don't see or hearing things that other people don't hear. And as well as some other things. Being paranoid, somebody's watching me, somebody's after me. Depression can start off as, well, back in the day they called it the blues. I'm just feeling
taking
a little blue.
Yes. Taking us back a little bit.
I'm feeling a little blue. So, but when you're feeling a little blue for 2 weeks, then that may be depression. When you're not wanting to leave the house, not wanting to get out of the bed, not wanting to be around people, and socially withdrawing, then you might be leaning toward depression. Anxiety anxiety is a physiological response. So anybody that's anxious, they're going to feel something. The heart's going to race, brain gets scattered, they can't think clearly, they may start having a cold sweat. So anxiety, being that it's a physiological response, people have panic attacks because they don't know what's happening. So just trying to give you like a summary of each one of them. So when people come in to see a therapist, or even now, medical doctors are asking the questions. So your primary care physician is asking these questions about depression and anxiety now. So, and they're giving medication. Now, they don't know everything because they're a medical doctor, not a psychiatrist, but at least they're getting started and giving people antidepressants and things of that nature. But it's important that the question gets asked. How are you sleeping? How's your appetite? Have you lost a lot of weight in the last 30 days? Have you gained a lot of weight? Are you going to work every day? If you tardy for work 5 days a week, something might be going on.
That's good.
So things of that nature, we need to start looking and asking the questions so that people can be guided to the help that they need.
Well, it sounds good what you're saying, and I kind of got an idea of some of the things that you're talking about by working in the field myself. But I just want people, if you want to call in tonight, the number is 240-719-2560. We are here to answer all your questions on tonight. And I think I don't want to talk too much. I think my wife has a few questions she may want to ask.
I was thinking of one of the questions is, when it comes to dealing with depression, does that also, or can that lead to violence?
Okay. There is no direct correlation between depression and violence. Okay. So let's kind of break it down a little bit. When a person is depressed, some of the symptoms, everybody's not going to have the same symptoms, but some of the symptoms are easily irritated. Okay. They're not sleeping. So think about it. They may be sleeping too much. So when you got this person that's depressed, and then then another person come into their world and they making these demands, well, you need to get up and go to work. You need to do this and you need to do that. But internally, they don't have the energy, the lack of energy. They're fatigued. So what is our most is our go-to emotion. What's our go-to emotion?
Okay.
Anger.
Okay.
So if your go-to emotion is anger, then that's what's going to manifest itself, because you can't see the pain inside.
Yes.
But if I show you anger, you can see that.
That's good.
And so what I want you to do is leave me alone. So if I show you anger, guess what you're going to do? You're going to leave me alone.
Excellent.
So the violence isn't there, but you may see the anger.
Okay.
But now the anger can lead to violence.
It can.
Okay.
It can. And that's why we have to learn to communicate more effectively with our loved ones, with our family members. And that's a whole nother subject, but effective communication can kind of diffuse that.
Okay.
If you understand the person's triggers. And that's another thing. We talk about, well, in our field, we talk about triggers.
Okay.
We don't explain and tell our loved ones what the triggers are.
Okay.
You know, I may know, if you look at me and huff and puff and walk away, that's a trigger for me. But if I don't tell you that's a trigger, you huff and puff and walk away, then I'm angry and you wondering what's going on.
Okay. So it's an unexpected trigger.
Exactly.
Okay.
And triggers can come at any time. It could be, and we always have to pay attention to our senses when it comes to triggers.
Okay.
Because our sight, hearing, taste, sound, our ear, everything, anything in any of our senses can be a trigger to something emotionally inside of us.
Okay. It's funny that you say that. I grew up watching, watching people, like one of the things I grew up with, one of my foster parents, every week that he got paid, he got angry that Friday. He would get angry that Friday, and he would come in and he would fight with everybody. And I couldn't understand what that was about. And I found out that he was just angry about, his check. He had to use all his check for bills, and he really wasn't making a lot of money.
Right.
So he was angry about that, and he would drink, and he would just fight. And I couldn't understand, but it was always on that Friday when he got paid.
Wow.
So I couldn't understand what was going on with him. So eventually one day I asked him, I said, why do you get angry every Friday? What's going on? And I was young enough to ask him to get away with it. And he told me, he said, I feel like I'm working for nothing. So there's a lot of different things that go on in our community that we don't talk about that causes us to be depressed. I know for me, myself, rejection is one of those things that can cause me to be depressed. And I fight with that from time to time, because I feel like rejection is just one of those things that just affect you in a way that you can't really explain. And when you try to explain it, people always put a stigma towards you. Are you soft? Are you sensitive? Or you a whole lot of things they say about you. Talk to us about rejection, the effects of rejection on people.
When you think about things such as that, I always use a diagram, which I didn't think to bring with me, is I always say that anger is a secondary emotion.
Okay.
Feelings of rejection, frustration, disrespect,
Okay.
annoyance, all of those are those underlying. So think of a volcano.
Okay.
What's the hottest part of a volcano? It's at the bottom.
Yes.
Then it builds up
Okay.
and it blows.
Okay.
Okay? So if we don't take care of these emotions, rejection, and talk to people about, I feel rejected when you do A, B, C, or D. Okay. They don't know that that's your feeling. Because what you're going to probably show them, most African American men are going to show anger when they feel disrespected or rejected. Okay? So what we need for people to do is learn how to talk about those, I call them minor emotions, because anger is the major one.
Okay.
Learn how to talk about these minor emotions with the person that we're feeling rejected by in a way that they can understand. But we have to take the defensiveness out of it, because what we tend to do is we'll start with, well, you did such and such. Though you're not pointing a finger, that's exactly what you did by starting with you. But if we say, I feel rejected, doesn't that kind of take the sting off of it? So we have to pay attention to how we communicate with each other so that we can show more love versus showing all this anger.
So if I say I felt rejected about something and you say to me, well, that's your problem.
No.
You see, and a lot of people do that, but they say, well, it's not my fault you feel rejected. I'm just being real with you. I'm just telling you how I feel, and you say, well, your feelings make me feel rejected, and they tell you that's not your problem. How do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize that our emotions, our feelings are ours. We own them. They're our choice. So it is your you feeling rejected, because that's what you chose to feel based on what came at you at that time. Because you could very well decide that you're not going to feel rejected. Our emotions are a choice. However, they're again talking about triggers and things that cause stuff to swell up in us. When you tell someone that you feel rejected, I would hope that they would listen and they would hear and want to know, what did I do or what did I say to cause you to feel that way.
So when you deal with people who say, this is my personality, I just keep it real, this is how I talk, you gotta get used to how I talk. But in their talking, they're actually talking angry towards you, or they're being dismissive towards the things that you tell them, but they're saying that's their personality.
Right.
Because I hear that a lot. People say, well, this is who I am, this is how I talk, I'm not changing for you, so forth and so forth. How do you deal with that kind of thing when it comes at you?
Well, for me, I would say you don't have to be that way. That might be the way you are, but as long as you're breathing, you have an opportunity to change. So how effective has being this way been for you? How effective have you gotten jobs being this way? Have you gotten in great relationships being this way? But this is again back to communication. We don't have to engage these conversations. That's what we do. That's what we get wrapped around the axle, because when someone comes at us that way, we come back. We don't have to. We can choose to let that person be. They have a right to be who they are, and let that be them.
So basically what you're saying is control what you can control.
Exactly.
Because that's what I hear. This is what we practice at work now when we try to talk to certain patients. And, sometimes we want to help them so much, but they really don't want the help. They're kind of resistant at that moment. So, we've trained that, just control what you can control.
Right.
Give them what you have to offer and let them decide what it is they want to do in their recovery. I always wanted to know about anxiety. Because I think is a confusion about anxiety and depression. I know you went over them. But explain anxiety, how anxiety can come up on a person. What can cause anxiety to come up on the individual?
See, the thing about any mental illness, we have to look at it from a holistic perspective. Because a lot of individuals, and I'll have to say in the African American community, have experienced some form of trauma. Okay. So when you think about a child, and Randell, you mentioned being in foster care. Think about a child being ripped from their family and placed in a stranger's home. The trauma of that, depending upon the age, it really doesn't matter about the age. They're pulled away from their family. So when you got an adverse childhood experience lying deep in this 50, 60-year-old man or woman, and then life gets piled on top of that, then they can have symptoms of depression or anxiety. I always say depression and anxiety are kissing cousins. Because where one is, the other one ain't that far behind. And so the difference is, again, anxiety, there's a physiological response. Okay, so if a person is sleeping a lot, not eating, that have a lack of energy, they're going to feel low, but their heart is going to be racing. Okay. Wow. So, but for anxiety, you're going to have it's the autonomic nervous system. I don't want to get technical, but you're going to have a physiological response in your body. Okay. And so and then some, it could be to the extent where it's a panic attack. And that's what people say, I felt like I was going to die. Because it's extreme dread. And so that's the difference in the two.
So, I know we have so much to go over tonight, and we're moving a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation. But before we take a break, remember the number is 240-719-2560. Please call in. We'd love to answer some of your questions on tonight. That was good. That was good.
time of year again, filled with family, gifts, and lots of holiday cheer. Well, this season, give the gift of love. Donate a gently used or new coat to a family in need. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive. That's right. There's still time to get off of Santa's naughty list after November 1st. Come on down to Vox Wave at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. Drop off that old coat and help us at Vox Wave keep the less fortunate warm this winter. Donate at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive.
Wrapping gifts can take all the fun out of the holidays. So this season, spend more time shopping and less time wrapping. Let us at Grow Peace handle all of your gift wrapping needs. Grow Peace is reliable, dependable, and has an eye for details. Big or small, valuable or inexpensive, Grow Peace wraps it right for little cost. It's easy. Between the dates of November 1st and December 23rd, email Robin at shipmentrc@gmail.com and she'll let you know the closest, secure location you can drop off your gifts. That's shipmentrc@gmail.com. And don't forget to ask about our handmade holiday cards to add that special personal touch in every gift. With gift wrapping by Grow Peace, you can take back your time this holiday season and spend it with family, friends, or just do more shopping. Grow Peace, gift wrapping with love each holiday season. Happy holidays.
To the Randell Show, and we are here again with Winnie Moore discussing depression. And I do have a question, Winnie, about anxiety. Can you talk a little bit about bad eating habits that stem from depression?
Yes.
Overeating?
Okay. One of the symptoms that we look at for depression is if the person's eating habits have changed, like within the last 2 weeks, if they're eating less, because usually when we feel depressed or anxious, we're going to swing from one pendulum to the other. Either it's going to be an undereat, not eating at all, lose their appetite, or an overeat, because then they're eating to their emotions. And so we have those pendulums that swing when a person is experiencing those disorders.
Okay.
But I want to say one thing, too, to make sure that we're clear, that mental illness does not discriminate. It's not race. It doesn't care what race you are, what ethnicity you are. 1 in 4 Americans will experience a mental illness.
Wow.
That's 1 in 4. So if there's 4 people in this room, 1 of us are going to experience a mental illness. So those are the numbers. And if you think about it, that's a lot of people. And that's why we need to be more educated and get the help that we need.
That is fantastic. I was going to, again, those that are watching, you are tuned in. We have this opportunity. This platform is for you to call, to have questions that you've been thinking about, you haven't had the opportunity to ask. Now is the time. Caller, call in. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Do not be embarrassed. Now is the time to be able to call in. And this is the number where you can call and have questions or comments. The number is 240-719-2560. Call in. We are here. We are here for you. The information is here. The directions are here. The help is here.
For all my Christian believers out there, we know that God can fix anything. God can do anything. But I know so many believers that have suffered from depression and still serve in the church. Some preachers, some deacons, some people who sing on the choirs, some people who just at church all the time, who serve all the time, still suffer from some type of depression. So, we want to move past the fact, we know God is all in all. God can change things in a blink of an eye, but we still want to be educated and still have a spiritual component as well. I can give you several scriptures that, we can use. I like 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you.
Yes.
And that's when I go by. But you still have to know what your anxieties are. You have to know what it is that's bothering you. So when you go to God, you can let him know, well, God, this is what's bothering me. God, I feel this way about myself. I don't feel adequate enough. I feel like I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be good enough. I feel like I'm just never going to get another job. I feel like my marriage is not going to work. I feel like I'm never going to be married. I feel like I'm never going to have children. You got a whole lot of things that you deal with, but you have to know what they are and take them to God. Now, once you take them to God, God will direct you who you should talk to. Yeah. But you want to always use both of these things together. It's very important that we have a spiritual component to our lives. And a lot of people that I talk to, they tell me that they don't feel loved. Yes. That's the first thing they say. I don't feel loved. Good. Nobody cares about me. Mm-hmm. So for us to just blanket tell them, well, just talk to God, cast your cares on God, that's good, and it works. But people still have to do the work for it to work. Yes. Mm-hmm. So we don't want you to think that we just giving you a sad, gloom and doom picture of anxiety and depression, because God is a healer, God is a deliverer, and he will set you free. But there's some work that you have to do. Our pastor reminded us today in her sermon, there's work that we have to do. Yes. We have to do the work. So we can't expect God to do his part and we not do our part. So if you're struggling with something, this is the time to talk about it. Let people know how you feel. Yes. Let people know how you feel about what's going on in your life. And I think this is the time to do it. Please call 240-719-2560 so we can talk about it on tonight. So, Ms. Moore, let me ask you something. Women, right? I'm speaking for the men tonight. Okay. How do we deal from a man's perspective with a woman who may be suffering from depression?
That's good.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, let me talk about the difference in men and women.
All right.
Okay. Men are black and white.
Okay.
And if more women would hear me when I say that, I would things would get better in terms of communication. Okay. Men's brains are black and white. So when you have a black and white brain, your whole thought process is, okay, give me something I can fix. Give me something I can fix. So if your wife is feeling depressed, she don't want to get out of the bed, and she can't tell you how she's feeling, you don't know what you can fix. So who's going to be anxious then?
Okay.
The husband.
Wow. Okay.
So you're going to have an anxious husband and a depressed wife. Wow. Because the wife can't tell the man what she's feeling so he can fix it.
So I like that answer, but I've heard some conversations where women have said, I don't want you to fix it. I just want to talk. I just want to be heard.
Yes.
So how do we, what do we do? That kind of backs us up a little bit.
And you do just what they ask.
Okay.
They just want you to listen.
Okay.
And that's listen without formulating in your mind how you're going to fix it. Because again, you're a fixer.
Right.
So she's talking, and in your head, you're like, okay, give me something to fix. Give me something to fix. And she's not giving you nothing to fix, but you're too busy trying to figure it out that you don't hear what she's saying.
So is this why men think, and married men, of course, we're talking about tonight, is this why men think when their wives are going through something, the best thing to do is have sex with them, and that makes it all go away?
Right, because it does for them.
For the man?
It does for the man.
Okay.
Okay, because a man will have sex and, all's right with the world. But the woman is sitting there saying, well, I'm still hurting.
Okay.
I'm still torn inside.
Okay.
That did nothing for me. That was for you. So it's important that we communicate what each other's needs are and let this be a win-win situation. Because right now, a lot of marriages are falling and torn apart because it's a win-lose situation.
Okay. So it's when you say win-lose, what do you mean exactly?
Because somebody's needs are getting met and the other one's isn't.
Okay.
So when one is and one isn't, then that's a win-lose situation. So effective communication, when that comes into play, then both people's needs can get met because they are learning how to talk to each other. They're learning how to dialogue and negotiate. I don't believe in compromise because to me, compromise, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. How many of you all have had a conversation as a couple or boyfriend or girlfriend and you say, okay, whatever? That's compromise.
So is that is compromise bad though? Is it a bad thing?
In certain situations. But when it comes to a relationship, you need to negotiate to a resolution.
So what if my resolution to me is just compromise? I'm just not going to talk about it. You want to go to Ruby Tuesday? My wife loves Ruby Tuesdays. I'm not a Ruby Tuesday fan. I like other places. But when she decides she want to go to Ruby Tuesday, it's just I'm going to go. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat it. But I'm just going because she likes Ruby Tuesday. I really don't care for Ruby Tuesday. Okay. But I'll go with her. So now that's a good compromise.
You say it is.
But it feels like it is.
Okay. No, it sounds like it is.
Okay.
But internally, you're going to be sitting there. We at Ruby Tuesday again. I don't even like Ruby Tuesday. Ain't nothing on this menu I want to see. But that's what you're going to be talking to yourself about.
Okay.
But you outwardly, you're going to put on that mask.
So you pretend it.
That's so good.
Okay.
So, and that's the reason I say I don't like compromise.
Okay.
When you negotiate, then you help her understand why Ruby Tuesdays is not a good choice, because it's not a place where both of you all can enjoy.
But is it always going to be a place where both people will enjoy? Isn't it a sacrifice? You have to sacrifice?
That's different. Sacrifice and compromise is two different things.
Help me understand that.
Sacrifice, when you sacrifice and because of that you love that person and you care about that person, then internally you shouldn't feel nothing about it.
Yes, that's good.
You shouldn't walk away from
That's
that feeling like you didn't get what you wanted.
Or like you're doing them a favor.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. So sacrifice and compromise, two different things.
Okay, I'll accept that. Anybody have a debate about that? Please give us a call at 240-719-2560.
I really like this conversation because it talks about, too, Winnie, how you perceive things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that when you communicate effectively, you have to know that that other person that you're talking with understands exactly what you are saying.
Exactly. And it's about, you have to break things down. You know, we have so many people saying, I don't like answering questions. You know, you're asking too many questions.
Oh, that's so
and that was me. That was me as well. But you know what? You have to ask questions to fully understand what that other person is saying. Because when we suppress our emotions, when we talked about depression leading to violence.
Yes.
When you suppress your emotions, think about suppressing your emotions for 20 years.
My goodness.
Okay.
And not talking about some pain that's been sitting for 20 years. And then something triggers that pain to just come out. Then it could come out in some very negative, painful ways. So it's important that we learn to kind of dig deep. Mm-hmm. And in the confines of a therapy session, because of the confidentiality and the HIPAA laws and all of those things, that's a place that you can talk and let it all out. And it stays in that room when you walk out.
Okay. In your practice, because you do have a practice, can you tell us about your practice?
Yes. I'm a part of a group practice. It's Alpha and Omega Health and Wellness Center. Okay. And
beginning and the end.
At the beginning and the end, exactly. That was the whole point behind it, is because we want to look at people from head to toe.
Okay.
We want to talk to them about nutrition. We want to talk to them about their health. We want to talk to them about their mental. Because think about it this way: if you cut your head off from your body, can it live without it?
No, ma'am.
But yet we don't take care of this. Okay. We'll take care of this. We'll take the metformins and the lisinoprils, but we won't take a Prozac or a Zoloft to take care of our brain.
Wow.
Okay.
So, you know, at Alpha and Omega, again, the beginning and the end, looking at everyone from a holistic perspective, that we make sure we take care of every aspect of their life and give them the tools that they need to survive.
Okay. So where's your practice located? Can you give us
Alpha and Omega is situated. We have an office in Camp Springs, Waldorf, and Upper Marlboro. Our main office is in Waldorf, Maryland, off of Crane Highway, 2670 Crane Highway, Suite 408. Our telephone number, if anybody out there needs it and would like to call us, is 240-232-5554.
You know, it's funny. I had an opportunity to work with Winnie in PHP program at a place that we were working, and we kind of hit it off in the fact that we always just wanted to help people, and we always kind of went back and forth on what was the best way to help somebody. And we found out that the best way to help somebody is how you talk to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We found that everybody that came into the program, it's how we talk to them. And we found out later, then when they let us know, they said, well, you know, I appreciate the way you talk to me. You didn't make me feel like I was sick. You didn't make me feel like I was depressed. You didn't make me feel like I was strange or different. And I find out in our community, I'm sure other communities experience it as well, but I'm part of this community. I find out that when people talk to you and they know that you have some type of mental illness, they kind of talk down to you. They kind of talk to you in a way that you know that they're talking to you in that way because of that. How do we combat that?
And that's the stigma of mental illness. That's what we're fighting against. There's a big movement with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, Taraji Henson.
Yes.
She has a movement going to break down the stigma, especially in the African American community, about mental illness. And because what we're told is, if you cry, you're weak. That's what most men are told. If you cry, you're weak. You can't never let them see you sweat. You got to hide this, and you can't say this. And so with all of that pressure society puts on us, it's like, well, I don't want to be seen as the C word. I don't like the C word, but I will say it here. Crazy.
Okay.
That's what we say. Oh, they just crazy.
Right.
You know, no, they're not. They're having some problems. They have some issues. Let's help them understand what's going on.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I was thinking too in this conversation that sometimes people feel embarrassed or they're ashamed to talk about the experiences that they have, the things that come to their mind. I think because, like you all said, sometimes it's the environment and how we have grown up, what we were told, what our parents told us. Don't cry, just take it. You know, the men dealt with that a lot. Just take it, deal with it. But you're not dealing with it.
No.
But just taking it and holding it in. It becomes layers.
And that's where the oppression and the suppression comes into play. You feel oppressed, you're going to suppress your emotions about that. Because to be politically correct, and we can't be the angry black woman or the angry black man. So we have all this pressure that if we don't have a place, a comfortable place, confidential place to be able to talk about these feelings, they're only going to sit with us, and they will make you sick. They talk about stress kills, it does. Because you have, with anxiety, because of the way the hormones will release when a person is angry, anxious with fight or flight, the adrenaline dumps into their body. They can build up, what is it called, acid reflux issues. They have digestive systems, digestive issues, because that's what it attacks. So then you got acid reflux taking, what is it, Prilosec and all of that, and you're like, I don't know where this is coming from, and that is something that doesn't get turned around. Once you ruin that esophagus and that stomach, it's ruined. When you could have learned the strategies, coping strategies to help you with your anxiety, and less of that would be happening.
You know, when I'm sitting there listening to you, and I'm thinking about when we were young and we would get a whipping, and they would tell you not to cry. So basically they said, I'm going to hurt you, but I don't want you to cry. And we had to live with that and try to see how tough we were and not cry. So we grew up thinking, I better not cry. So if somebody hurt you, you wouldn't even cry about it. You wouldn't even talk about it because you've already been trained in your mind not to cry. And then you would hear them say, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. How is that possible?
And it is not. But there again, when I spoke earlier about adverse childhood experiences, that's the trauma that children go through that we didn't call it trauma then because I was telling my daughter a couple of weeks ago, I said, I got the name of my next book, The Greatest Lie Ever Told. Sticks and stones will break my bones and words will never hurt me. Because what do you remember? You remember them words.
Yeah.
Even though you got that whooping, what you mainly remember is
the words.
Saying, don't you cry.
Yes.
That's what sits with you. And so when we don't help adults now that we're children and that have experienced that, as well as the children that are experiencing it today, because those things haven't gone away.
That's a good point. Let's talk about the children. Have you experienced children in your practice? Do you?
Yes, I do. I see the youngest child that I see in my I have is on my caseload is 6.
Wow.
We'll see them as young as 3.
Okay. Wow. Are they actually being seen at 3?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. my philosophy is that I'm not going to see
Wow.
a child that a parent isn't active in that treatment as well, because that child is only coming to see me once a week. They living with that parent 24/7. So if the parent isn't involved in therapy with that child, then I'm not seeing the child. But yes, we see children, and children are experiencing a lot. They're seeing a lot of violence. They're seeing a lot of, and these TVs, you can be traumatized vicariously by watching this stuff on TV. So, you know, we have to learn that though it may seem all right, it may not be for a child.
You know, we're hearing some things. If you heard Ms. Moore say that children as early as 3 years old are being affected by mental illness. And you may be watching tonight and you may say, oh, I've heard all this before. I don't really have nothing to say about it. But the truth of the matter is, what if somebody in your family is suffering from mental illness? What if your child is suffering from mental illness and it really needs some help? So, you know, this is really important tonight. So we would like for you to call in at 240-719-2560 so we can have an open conversation about mental illness on tonight. And you don't have to say your name. If you want to keep it private, you don't have to say your name, but we will still like to help you. So we're going to take a break right now. We just ask that you would call in 240-719-2560. Thank you. You are doing. We got a few more minutes. We're going to do. You're doing excellent. welcome back. We had a call while we were on break, and
Yes.
the call was someone called and they were talking about a family member that developed schizophrenia, and their question was they recognized it happening, but nobody else could seem to understand what was going on, and they recognized what happened. So our question is tonight to Ms. Moore is, how do you know when somebody is developing experiencing schizophrenia, depression, anxiety? What are they doing that's different from what we consider normal, if that's such a thing?
And that's what you have to know, is you have to know what their norm is.
Okay.
So if they're a family member, you're gonna probably start seeing some change.
Okay.
So what is this change? And explore that change. If a person is experiencing psychosis, schizophrenia is the diagnosis, but what they're experiencing is psychosis. And that's when they're hearing voices or they're seeing things that, again, nobody else sees, or they can be delusional. And that could be them to them, they're not making up a story, because their delusion is their truth.
That's true.
Okay. So they may say, well, I was married for 20 years and I have 5 kids. And this person has had a developmental disability all of her life. Then how did she become? No, you ain't never had no husband and never had no kids. Where is that coming from? So we have to know what the normal is. Know that she doesn't have a husband. Know she ain't got no 5 kids. And she'll be passionate about that, because her delusion is her truth. That's her reality. And so then we need to get them the necessary help.
Okay. Because I know the caller was saying that it seemed like he was the only one in the family that could really recognize what was going on with it. And that's strange when, you have 4 or 5 family members and only one person can recognize there's a difference going on with a family member. And why do you think that is?
Well, we got this hustle and bustle life that we have, especially in this area. We spend 2 hours commuting. We spend 8 hours at work. And we're not home but a couple of hours before we're going upstairs or going to cook, eat, and go to bed.
That's true.
So if there's no one paying attention, then children can, though they may eventually get these diagnoses as adults, but they'll fall through the cracks because nobody's really paying attention, because the adults are too focused on working. And so we have to learn that we need to live life and not let life live us.
So let me ask you this, and I was just something I was thinking during the break. Do you think that single family homes where the father was absent causes depression in a child?
It can. There's so many components that can come together in a child's life to cause any type of mental illness. I know there's a lot of talk about single family homes, and primarily ran by women. And so if you think about it, you got a 1-parent household and that parent has to work, and then you got 3 or 4 kids, there's going to be some things that are not going to be succinct enough to see and take care of that child in a good way. The father, because you have 2-parent households where the father is there, but he's still absent. So then what? So it's really about paying attention to the child, paying attention to what's going on, their grades, their behavior, their demeanor. When you see a shift, when that parent, whether they're single or it's a 2-parent household, when you see a shift in your child, when they already getting straight A's and they go to C's and D's, it's not about them grades. It's about what else is going on with this child. That's good. And, we need to start paying closer attention.
So how does drugs play into part of depression and anxiety and all the things that we're talking about? How does drugs come into play?
The use of drugs?
The use of drugs,
Okay. Well, the thing about it is of course, we got the opioid epidemic. But we know that drug use and abuse has been around for a long time. Okay. And so what we have to start looking at is what came first, the chicken or the egg. So right now this person is addicted, but what happened in their life? What may have occurred to cause what trauma? Because now we're getting more educated on trauma-focused therapies and things of that nature, because what we're learning is that a trauma could have happened when that child was 3 and 4 years old. Now that child is 57. and not understanding what's going on in their lives.
But now that's not to say that everybody that was involved in drug use went through a trauma.
Right.
I mean, we
no, I'm not saying that. That's not a blanket statement.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what happens though, what can happen is the person can be on drugs today and may have been on drugs for a very long time.
Okay.
But even if nothing happened to get them on drugs, during the time they've been on drugs, something has probably happened.
Okay, yes. I can accept that.
So you see what I'm saying? Okay. So something may have occurred. So what we have to do is peel back the layers of the onion to help that person from that core, as opposed to just focusing on the addiction. Mm-hmm. The addiction is important, and we got to help them stay sober and put things in place. But we also need to look at the mental health piece. Okay. Because most people that are addicted to any substance, they're probably duly diagnosed, or as we call it now, co-occurring, where they have a mental health disorder as well as a substance disorder.
Okay.
So it goes hand in hand. And what do you do by the time they become an adult and you see signs and you talk to them about what you're concerned about and they don't want help?
And that is that's the challenge, because again, the stigma. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be. I've gone 60 years and I ain't never had a mental health disorder. I'm just having work stress. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you having work stress and you come to see me. I'm a therapist, so insurance is going to force me to give you a diagnosis so that I can get paid. Mm. So it's not that we're out there wanting to hand off and throw out labels, but the way the system is set up, we have to give a diagnosis to get paid by insurance.
So now, is that saying that you're misdiagnosing people?
No, it's not saying we're misdiagnosing, but people don't want labels. Okay. So because think about it, once you get a diagnosis, it's on an insurance claim, it's going to the insurance company. Exactly. Your insurance is through your job, so that fear that somebody's going to find out that I have a mental health disorder, I don't want that. So rather than use their insurance, they'll pay out of pocket. Okay. Because they don't want no record.
I got you.
And it all goes back to the stigma. My thing is this. I don't care if you pay cash or get the help that you need.
Exactly.
That's what the key is getting the help that you need.
You know, it's ironic that you say that. I know on my job I went from one position to another position. As you know, I worked in the registration at the hospital, and then I went to the behavioral health unit. And now that I'm working in a position as a peer recovery coach, I'm an OSAP peer recovery coach, so I deal with people who come in with an opioid and suicide. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do, people that may have committed or almost died from opioids, right? And I help them with that, some purposely and some not purposely, because now people are smoking marijuana and they get halfway through the joint and they're passing out and they don't know what's going on, and they come to find out that heroin is inside the marijuana or fentanyl is inside the marijuana or carfentanil is inside the marijuana, and all they say, Narcan brings them back, so we know it was an opioid because the only thing Narcan can work on is an opioid. So we know when the Narcan brings them back, we know that somehow they had an opioid, but they're telling us all I did was smoke a joint. So what's going on now is when I switched positions and took that position, some people started acting a little different towards me because they knew I had a history of substance abuse. So they, you could tell the respect level went down a little bit, and people started giving you certain attitudes, and you got to deal with that every day. So can you imagine that in your own family? When you finally come to mom and say, I've been using, or something's not right, I'm seeing things on the wall, and they start treating you different. And I think most people are afraid of being treated different.
Right,
that's good,
because they don't even know that they're different, really. When you talk about, I see, we had somebody said they see a certain thing, they saw a black box or something like that, and that was their reality. They saw a black box, right? And we're saying, well, we don't see no black box, and so we kind of treat them like, okay, they're a little slow here. But the truth of the matter is, this is why nobody's talking.
Yes.
This is why he's talking. This is why people are sleeping with the covers over their head.
Yes.
This is why people are drinking. This is why people are drugging. This is why people are sexing. This is why people are doing everything, because they're dealing with something that they're afraid to talk about.
Yes.
And that's and the stigma of mental illness being as loud as it is out there today is causing people to be fearful of talking about it.
Right.
Because they don't want those labels. They don't want to be seen as crazy.
Right.
And so it's like, if that's what I'm gonna get. And then the other piece that we have also is government employees that have security clearances.
Right.
They're struggling too.
Right.
But they got a security clearance, so they can't say that they depressed, anxious, or bipolar, because they lose their security clearance, they lose their job.
So in saying that, how do you help somebody that know if I talk to my job, so I go to EAP and I let them know that I'm smoking marijuana, or I'm an alcoholic, I'm drinking, but they have a security clearance. What do you say to them? What do you do in that case?
Well, the HIPAA laws protects people. There's even additional protections under when you're a substance abuser. That, reporting laws. You don't have to tell. If you get help on your own, you don't have to tell your employer you got a problem. You can even go to EAP. EAP can't say anything.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. And a lot of what is happening is EAP is being contracted out of these agencies. Okay, and so now you got a third party that's doing it, so that's less a possibility of it getting back to your job. So and I do see people through EAP programs around here in DMV, and their jobs don't even ask me for updates or anything. It's just they just want their people to get the help that they need. I don't know if they have security clearance. Not my concern. But when they're coming to see me through EAP, I deal with them with what they're coming for. And their jobs are not, and I can say that, their jobs are not asking me what is going on.
I have a question. How important is it for family members to recognize not only the need for help, but also how to help as a family? How important is it for family to support you in that situation?
Well, it's about education. There's a program out there. It's called Mental Health First Aid. And so I would encourage anyone, if you could Google mental health first aid, you can find a facilitator and get the knowledge, bring it into your churches, bring it into your schools, bring it into your workplace. So because through those trainings, and then Red Cross has one called psychological first aid. So it's about education. So I say go to a therapist, but you need to know what to look for. And these programs, mental health first aid and psychological first aid through the Red Cross, that's what they teach lay people. What to look for. And then what to do and where to go for help.
That's good to know. Because, I find out even being in church, and I've served in church for quite some time, and I find out even in our churches we're afraid to say that we're going through something for a stigma. And that's supposed to be the safest place that you can be, is in your house of worship. But we're unable to do that in the house of worship as well. So tonight I hope that we have brought some kind of enlightenment to you about mental health and some of the things that you should look for and some of the ways that you should deal with it. And what we're going to do is I have a question for you before I go. What happened in your life that made you feel like this is what you want to do?
I tell people I'm old school mental health. I came into working in community mental health in Georgia when I was in my early 20s. And that was my first experience in terms of working in mental health. But I had an aunt that I grew up with that was in a state hospital. And in the early 70s, they decentralized state hospitals. So she had to come home. And most of those people that didn't have homes anymore, that was the beginning of our homeless population, was that when they dumped out, closed those state hospitals. And so, seeing her and trying to understand what I was seeing, because she was schizophrenic. But I didn't know at that time until I began to work in the mental health system. And, starting at the age that I did, looking at my aunt, and learning about mental illness, it became a passion for me. And I worked in the state of Georgia for 10 years in mental health, in community mental health.
Wow.
Okay. That because it's always a reason behind why somebody's doing something.
Yes.
And listening to you tonight, I'm so impressed by. I've worked with you, and I know that you're passionate about it. But listening to you tonight really lets me know that there is help.
There is.
There is help. We have godly help, but we have spiritual help, but we also have professional help.
Yes.
And you should not be ashamed to get professional help. Yes, you can still pray, and you can still put oil on yourself, and you can still talk to your pastor. You can do all those things that you've been doing, but you may just need a little bit of professional help. There's nothing wrong with getting professional. I have gotten it myself. I suffer from depression myself. So let me let you know, I'm not just here just talking. I suffer from depression myself, and I believe it comes from childhood trauma. And then some of the things that I did made it even a little worse. But I've learned now that I can still I can rely on God because God is my source. But I still need some education. Yes. I still need to talk to somebody from time to time so I can get some clarity on what I'm dealing with. God will help me, give me peace. So I have the peace that I'm able to go and talk to somebody like Miss Moore, and this is what we want you to do. We want you to, we want you to be a godly person, a God-fearing person, but we still want you to get the help that you need to help you get to the next level. So you can help somebody that comes up to you and says, "Well, this is what I'm dealing with. How do I go home and tell somebody this is what I'm dealing with? Or I feel inadequate, or I feel, I just don't feel good. I want to go in the house. When I go home, you at church, you're having a good time, you're giving God praise, but you going home and you're drawing your curtains." I was one of those. I would go home, and my wife could tell you, I would go home and I'd be like, "Please, baby, close the curtains." I just didn't want no light to come inside. There was times I would look in the mirror and I wouldn't like what I saw. And so I knew it was depression, and I had to fight through that. I still fight through it on a daily basis, but God still keeps me. So that's why I'm here tonight. I'm so passionate about it tonight because a lot of people just don't know where to go.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, God works. Education works. Medication works.
Yes.
All of those things work together. But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. And you can't worry about what people are going to say about you, how they're going to feel about you. Because as my pastor says it in a funny way, they're going to talk about you regardless of what you're doing. Whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad, whether you're trying to do whatever, people are still going to have an opinion about you. But at least if you know people have an opinion because you're trying to do something to help yourself.
Yes.
So, and I say this to you tonight, I'm sitting here, and I'm thankful. I have had substance abuse, and I've had 14 years clean and sober, and I'm grateful to God about that. But I had to get some therapy. I had to take some medicine. I was on seasonal medicine at one time for depression. So I had to take some medicine. The reason they put me on seasonal medication is because in the wintertime you're not as active as in the summertime. So they would give it to me in the wintertime, then they would wean me off in the summertime because you were more active. You are more vitamin D. You're out in the sun. So, but for the wintertime, you kind of in the house all the time. And, so therefore the depression can kick in there. But I don't take any medicine today.
All right.
To God be the glory. I don't take any medicine today, but I don't talk against medicine.
Yes. Yes.
I believe that it works. I believe all three things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. We're going to go into break, and we're going to come back and have Ms. Moore speaking to our audience and just give some advice to some people, and then we'll see you when we come back. So what I want you to do...
time of year again, filled with family, gifts, and lots of holiday cheer. Well, this season, give the gift of love. Donate a gently used or new coat to a family in need. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive. That's right. There's still time to get off of Santa's naughty list after November 1st. Come on down to Vox Wave at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. Drop off that old coat and help us at Vox Wave keep the less fortunate warm this winter. Donate at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive.
Welcome back. We are now discussing in this segment bipolar disorder. Yes. In the African American community, you may hear the saying, "Oh, stop being bipolar. Stop acting bipolar." It's become a slang word, but I think saying those, making that statement, you're not understanding what's behind the statement. Winnie, can you talk to us about bipolar disorder?
Okay. Yes. It's kind of interesting that now that has come into mainstream to saying someone is bipolar, acting bipolar. Bipolar is a very serious illness. Back in the day, back when I first came into mental health, we called it manic depressive. Okay. But now they changed the name in recent renditions of the DSM to bipolar, but it still means the same. It's a manic episode tied with a depressive episode. Okay. So in order to be diagnosed with bipolar, you had to have presented with at least one manic episode. And mania can present itself as shopping, a person that might have 10,000 pairs of shoes. That's because that it's like when they're in that manic phase, shopping is what they do. That's their thing. A manic person can, build a house, paint a bridge, whatever. They're their most creative when they're in that manic phase. But then what is paired with is a drop in the depression, the severe depression. So you have height of mania, creativity, and severe depression where they not only closing the blinds, but they closing the door. They ain't even coming out of bed. Okay, so that's the pairing: manic, depressive, bipolar.
Okay, so what are some of the things that people do when they're manic? I heard you say shopping, but give us some other stuff.
Shopping,
I know they come grandiose when they're manic.
They're grandiose because they're the smartest. They're the most creative. Wow. They don't sleep for like 3 or 4 days. Okay. But it's not that they don't sleep. So people will say, well, that's insomnia. No, it's not. They don't have a need for sleep. Okay, there's a difference. Where an insomniac can't sleep. They're trying to go to sleep. But a person that's manic have no need for sleep. So they're up 3 or 4 days straight because they're in that manic phase. Hypersexuality. They can be very promiscuous. So it's just those types of things that can manifest itself in for mania.
So now the other side is what? You have the manic
and then you got the depression. And that's that dreaded depression. Where it's, like instead of a lack of energy, it's no energy. Not getting out of bed. And at times they could even think about suicide. Because they've been on this high for so long with the mania. This depression don't feel good. And so that's what the medications do, is try to help and balance those mood swings.
Well, it's funny you say that. I know being someone on substance abuse and using cocaine, and there was days I would be up, 3-4 days sometimes. And then when I finally crashed and came down, the suicide thought came in, and you feel like you just don't want to live without that feeling. So I kind of understand what you're talking about. So is that a lot of the causes of people for suicide, you think? Some of those causes? Usually
what the research says is that the person won't kill themselves when they're down. It's when they're starting to come back up, when they're starting to feel better, because then they're feeling like it's okay to do it now because they have the energy to do it. So, you know, and I apologize to anybody out there listening that if this conversation about bipolar and suicide is triggering anything, and I would encourage you, if you need to talk to someone, there's a National Suicide Hotline. Mm-hmm. That number is 1-800-273-8255. But I will apologize. Can you repeat that number one more time? 1-800-273-8255. And that's the National Suicide Hotline, 24/7. You can call and talk to a counselor.
So what I'd like for you to do now is, I heard everything that you said, and I heard your compassion, but if you can look into the camera and talk to somebody that may be dealing with all the things that we've discussed tonight. We've talked about depression. We've talked about suicide. We've talked about bipolar. We've talked about anxiety. And somebody that may be dealing, and they just don't know. Are they afraid? They don't know what to do. I know we've said a lot of things, but if you could just paint a blueprint for them of safety, that they can come out and talk about it, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. I would encourage anyone out there listening that if you have, and it's really about feelings, if you feel like you're all alone, you don't have anyone that, not to talk to, but anyone that's listening. If you feel that you need something and you just don't quite know what it is, call a counselor. Look on the back of your insurance card and call the 1-800 number. There's mental health. Medicaid pays for it. All the insurances pay for it. Even Medicare pays for it. And I just recently gave the telephone number for the National Suicide Hotline. So if anybody out there, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling scared, anxiety manifests itself as fear. And panic attacks are extreme fear. And then you're wondering, why is this happening? What's going on? Our thoughts drive a lot of our behavior. So talk to someone about what's going on in your head. What are you thinking about? Even if it doesn't seem like it's something that anyone wants to hear, find that somebody you can trust. Find that someone that you feel connected to enough that can get you the help that you need.
Yes.
So, Ms. Wynn, we are so glad to have you here. My wife and I, we know you, but, you know, this is really good that we had this conversation on tonight. I believe that somebody was helped. So, go ahead, Pastor.
And I wanted to elaborate, too. Just like when he said, know that you do not have to be alone in this situation. You are not alone. There are people who are here for you. You can call in now, 240. Before it's over, before this broadcast is over, 240-719-2560. You do not have to go through this alone. Be open to invest in yourself in a whole new way. Be open to become a better you. Be open to invest in getting the help that you need. You are worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, you are worth it. You know, we're all sitting here. We all have survived from something.
Yes.
We may not all tell our story tonight, but we all have experienced some type of one of those things that we're talking about, whether it be depression or anxiety. One of the things we've all have felt a certain way about ourselves. But I do want to say tonight, as we say in the church, you know, we're talking about fear, and you heard Miss Wendy talk about fear, but as we say in the church, is false education accepted as reality. Let me tell you what the real reality is. The real reality is that God is a healer, God is a deliverer, and he will heal you and deliver you, but please give yourself a chance.
Yes.
Give yourself a chance. I'm here to say tonight that God has delivered me from some things that, you know, I can't even talk about. I'm afraid to talk about. But the truth of the matter is, I know that he can do it because he did it for me. I'm sure he did it for my wife. I'm sure he's done it for Miss Moore. So we want you to know that there is hope.
Yes.
This is not a hopeless situation.
Yes.
This is not a situation where, I'm doomed for life. Yes. No, there is hope because God is a deliverer. I'm here to tell you, I just keep hearing that because I just believe that you need to know that God is with you.
Yes.
He's for you.
Yes.
And when God is with you, there's nobody else can be against you. Yes. There's no any kind of demonic forces that can be against you when God is with you. But you got to step out on faith.
Yes.
You got to step out on faith. You got to let somebody know what it is that you're dealing with.
Yes.
This is important.
Yes, it is.
This is important. So we're so glad tonight that we're able to talk about it. And once again, if you want to call in, we have a few more minutes. 240-719-2560. And if you want to call in, we can talk off the air if you didn't want to talk on the air. But we are here for you. And this is not the last time we'll be having this conversation. We'll have other people come in. I'll have some doctors coming in that will talk about medication a little bit more. We're going to have some preachers come in that's going to give you a spiritual aspect of it. And we're just going to have some reality. You know, people talk real. There's some real talk that has to happen so we'll know what to do for ourselves. Yes. I'm so grateful tonight. I'm so grateful for Ms. Moore being here tonight. Ms. Moore, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we close this segment?
I'm good.
You've done an excellent job. We thank you.
You've
done an excellent job. I appreciate you. You were on time tonight. That's one good thing. And you didn't rush us. You stayed with us. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate our engineer on tonight. He's done a great job. He has a beautiful spirit and made it easy for us tonight. So next week, we're going to be talking about businesses. Next Sunday, we're going to be talking about people with businesses and how to start a business. If you have a dream, how to start your dream. Yes. I'm sitting here tonight doing something that I always wanted to do, but it just wasn't the right time. And I'm not here for stardom. I'm not here for fame. I'm just here because I'm somebody who have experienced some things in life and would like to give back just a little bit. And if I can just help somebody, thank you. If I could just help somebody not go through some of the things that I went through, then I've done all I've been asked to do. Mm-hmm. So we thank you tonight. We thank you for listening. We thank you for listening. See us next week. We're going to be talking about business owners. And on the fourth Sunday is going to really be exciting. We're going to have millennials on. Yes. We have 2 people that's going to come on here. So thank you, and we'll see you next Sunday. God bless.
Have a good night.
Awesome.
Gifts can take all the fun out of the holidays. So this season, spend more time shopping and less time wrapping. Let us at Grow Peace handle all of your gift wrapping needs. Grow Peace is reliable, dependable, and has an eye for details. Big or small, valuable or inexpensive, Grow Peace wraps it right for little cost. It's easy. Between the dates of November 1st and December 23rd, email Robin at shipmentrc@gmail.com and she'll let you know the closest secure location you can drop off your gifts. That's shipmentrc@gmail.com. And don't forget to ask about our handmade holiday cards to add that special personal touch in every gift. With gift wrapping by Grow Peace, you can take back your time this holiday season and spend it with family, friends, or just do more shopping. Grow Peace, gift wrapping with love each holiday season. Happy holidays.
It's that time of year again, filled with family, gifts, and lots of holiday cheer. Well, this season, give the gift of love. Donate a gently used or new coat to a family in need. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive. That's right. There's still time to get off of Santa's naughty list after November 1st. Come on down to Vox Wave at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. Drop off that old coat and help us at Vox Wave keep the less fortunate warm this winter. Donate at 4711 Off Place, Suitland, Maryland. It's the Vox Wave second annual coat drive.
No. Wrapping gifts can take